Right, kia ora, good morning. Back this month, show number 2. Let's see if I remember how all this all works. Well, I hope you all had a great month. I've done quite a lot at the Wairarapa Women's Centre this month. For my part, lots of learning, as it was a new place for me, as you know, from last time. And the next few weeks will be about working out where we take the Wairarapa Women's Centre to. So any input from any Wairarapa listeners, women and men, are welcome. Just give us a call or send us an email at wairarapawomen@extra.co.nz. So next week we're going to be celebrating a New Zealand Volunteer Week, encouraging anyone in New Zealand who can to donate their time to give a little to people who need it. Personally, I know it goes a long way to do a bit of volunteering. We certainly have some amazing opportunities in the Wairarapa that you can volunteer for. So again, if you want to find out about volunteering, you can give the Wairarapa Community Centre a call. We've got a volunteering NGO there that will pinpoint you in the right direction. There's also an organisation called Be Collective where you can find out about volunteering opportunities in the Wairarapa. So, I think you probably already have enough of my voice, and we're going to have to go on to serious business and see who's on the show today. Last month, Sarah from Digital Seniors came, and she was talking about the well-being of our seniors and helping them fit in today's technology world. And today, the focus is on the well-being and inclusion of children and adults who are born with Down syndrome. And I have the pleasure of welcoming on the show a lovely volunteer in the Wairarapa called Bridie Allen. Bridie lives in the Wairarapa, and she is coming today to talk about Down syndrome, but also she wears many hats in the Wairarapa in our community. So, hello, Bridie.
Hello, Geraldine.
Welcome to the show. Can you tell me a little bit about your hats that you wear in our local community?
Yeah, sure. Firstly, thank you. And I'll take this opportunity to just shout out to all our volunteers. And I was thinking about this with the New Zealand Volunteer Week coming up and looking around just in our lives. How many people are volunteering? There's the PTA at my son's school, the soccer club, play centre, scouts, and of course the Down syndrome associations that I'm now involved with. So they're everywhere, these volunteers, and of course Digital Seniors, and I've had a little bit to do with them, and Sarah and Kathy, and they're all really amazing. And funny you talk about strategic plans, it must be the year for it, because I've currently working on the play centre strategic plan, as well as I just had a meeting with the New Zealand Down Syndrome Association and reviewing their 5-year strategic plan, so it's all there. My hats, I guess I'm a wife and a mum of 3 kids, and I am currently the president at Carterton Play Centre, which is a volunteer role there, and I'm on the New Zealand Down Syndrome Association Committee and the Wellington Down Syndrome Association Committee. So yeah, lots of jobs.
Lots of hats. A hat for every occasion. Now, tell me a little bit. Obviously, today we're going to focus on Down syndrome, but it's lovely to hear all the places you're involved in, and I'm sure lots of them give lots of support in your everyday life, as well as you giving. You get hopefully something back a little, yeah. And also you mentioned strategic plans, so I think we should have another coffee after this, and you can tell me all about strategic plans, because it's a new thing for me. Now, tell me a little bit about what got you involved with the Association for Down Syndrome. So you mentioned two association there, didn't you?
Yeah, so there is 2 organisations, and one is the New Zealand Down Syndrome Association and the Wellington Down Syndrome Association. So initially, I joined both in my early days with our diagnosis, and online in the middle of the night, surfing on my phone, feeding my baby. What is this Down syndrome business, and how do I learn more and get more support? So I joined both organisations. And then some months later, it might have been during lockdown actually, there was a letter sent out to the Wellington region, members in the Wellington region, saying they needed a new representative for the Greater Wellington region, so Wairarapa, Kapiti and Wellington, as the zone rep to sit on the New Zealand Down Syndrome Association committee. And I was like, well, there's nobody doing it at the moment. I can't do a worse job, so I'll reply and see what happens. And yeah, they accepted me to come into the position, and by default that meant I sat on the Wellington Down Syndrome Association committee as well, because my role is to be the liaison between the national body and the regional body. So I guess a overview of how those 2 organisations work together. The national body, the New Zealand Down Syndrome Association, or NZDSA, which is a little bit less of a mouthful, is the national organisation, and they deal with the higher level thing, create the resources to lobby government and sit around the table with the Ministry of Health at the moment with the COVID vaccine rollouts, and making sure that the people within the Down Syndrome Association as part of the disability sector have a voice. So it's at that higher level, national level is where NZDSA operates. And then Wellington Down Syndrome Association, or WDSA, alongside, there's also one in Auckland, the Auckland DSA, Canterbury, Otago, all these regional Down syndrome associations. They're more the face-to-face. They're the people in the regions, in the communities, as opposed to the national body. So yeah, my role is to sort of connect the Wellington community with the national organisation, and vice versa, so that NZDSA is acting on behalf of the people on the ground in the regions. And
so basically you connect the people of the area affected by Down syndrome, who are dealing with Down syndrome, to the national body in Christchurch, I believe. Is that right?
Well, there is this perception that we've got this big office somewhere, but in fact we have somebody who works from home in Palmerston North, and somebody who works from home in Christchurch, and we've got a few people in Christchurch, and we've got someone else, another staff member in Auckland. And so no, there is no actual physical office, or head office. We are a growing organisation. Well,
that's because when you look at the website, which I did look, it looks so professional that you think there is a big office behind it, but you're right, like it's not. That's where the money goes. They're spending the money on the resources, communication, and the support, rather than bright, shiny offices. Fair enough.
Well, and it was established 40 years ago, NZDSA, as a parent run organisation support group, and it's just grown from there. And shout out to Dan and his design team, who've done a lot of the graphics and stuff. So I don't know if there's any on watching here. There's some really, I don't know if that's going on. Oh. There we go. There's some really beautiful resources, and our website is fantastic, as well as the WDSA's got an upgraded website too. So moving into the digital age.
Fantastic. So tell me a little bit about in the Wairarapa and Wellington, how many people that you know of have got are affected by Down syndrome? Is there many?
That's a really good question, because our memberships, both at NZDSA and WDSA level, are not at the moment reflective of the communities or the people living with Down syndrome. So we are organisations that rely on the individuals affected to contact us. So just after I got my diagnosis, I searched the internet, I found these organisations, and I sent my email or application off, or clicked the button. So that's what we rely on, is people to come to us. Due to medical and privacy laws, we don't just get access to every baby that's born with Down syndrome. So don't know the exact statistics based on our membership numbers. However, there is about 1 in 1,000 babies born in New Zealand with Down syndrome. So that is about 1 or more babies every week are born with Down syndrome. So, yeah.
But obviously you don't get all of them.
No, we don't have all of those in our membership. Some of it is personal choice, and some people prefer to stay to themselves, and they don't want to reach out for that community or the support. And that's absolutely their choice. And we are both WDSA and NZDSA wanting to increase membership, and it's free to join both organisations, but just so that we can have the voice of the community, so that when we are doing things, when NZDSA is doing things like sitting around the table with the Ministry of Health or Ministry of Education and discussing policies that will impact the lives of people living with Down syndrome, that we've got the representation behind us, that they are representing the people. Yeah. So if you're listening and you have Down syndrome, or you are a support person for somebody with Down syndrome, then encourage you, or even a teacher aide or another organisation that supports Down syndrome in any way, that you can join both organisations, so that we can find out what it is that you want or need, and then the organisations can provide that. But without the numbers, we don't know.
Yeah, it's important for you to have more of an impact on ministries as well, to have more members joining in. So joining doesn't mean you have to be immensely involved in the
join the committee or volunteer or anything like that. That's entirely optional. But so the WDSA's mission is to support, educate and advocate. So we can provide that as much or as little as anybody wants. But it's free to join. Just jump onto the websites and click.
Yes, I guess my next question was, and you've answered part of it, but is what support is available from those associations? So what kind of support can people expect or get from these two associations?
Yeah, sure. Well, first up is, I guess, as a new parent or a parent getting a new diagnosis, whether that's prenatal or postnatal, post-birth, then for me anyway, it was that human connection, that support that really, really helped. So we provide, if there's a baby born in the Wairarapa and we know about it with Down syndrome, then I will make contact with that family and see if they want a visit, and I'd be really happy to come and visit them in hospital or at home, or not, over the phone, but just to reach out as a human-to-human support person, as somebody who is not far down the line. I'm far from an expert. My wee girl Sienna has Down syndrome, and she's not even 2 yet, so I think she's 20 months, so I'm still very early in my journey. But that support face to face is something that we provide as they get older. We've just run a seminar in Wellington on education, and so teacher aides came along, teachers came along, parents came along, and that's once the person with Down syndrome is either entering the education sector and starting school or progressing through school, there's some big questions, and support provided. So we ran WDSA ran a seminar workshop for that to help. There was also a sibling workshop, because that's quite a big thing for siblings of people with Down syndrome, and so they're not left out in the cold either. So there was a workshop run by them. We have an annual Christmas party where we get together. The WDSA is that face-to-face support, education, advocacy, because there's nothing more powerful than sitting beside or talking to another parent on the journey. And then also equally, I'm seeing now with some of the young adults that I'm meeting through the community with Down syndrome, and the relationships that they build with other people with Down syndrome.
Sounds like, like you say, it's a place where you can really get all the research. The research is already done partly, but you can be part of that research as well, and really inform yourself so that you can give a best chance to your child and to other people's children. So it sounds like the place to be if you care for someone with Down syndrome. So yeah.
And more the organisation, as part of the NZDSA strategic planning that we just were doing, there's an interesting shift. So 40 years ago, people were born with Down syndrome and often went into an institution to be raised and cared for and educated. And there's been a huge shift in the last 40 years to obviously staying more within the family, as research has shown, like Nathan Wallace's work about, connection and attachment and being with a primary caregiver. And so children now are, as my daughter Sienna, staying in the family, raised in a dare I say, normal environment with love and support as any other child is. The outcomes are quite different for children being raised these days with Down syndrome than 40, 50, 60 years ago. And that shift is also because these people are becoming more and more capable, more and more included and accepted in society. There is more of a shift with the NZDSA to actually be on the person with Down syndrome. So it's not just the parents anymore, which is what the organisation began to support. It's actually about now providing connections for the people with Down syndrome as well as their whānau and caring. So during lockdown, for example, there was a lot of Zoom calls being set up for the community of young adults with Down syndrome to connect with each other. So there's sort of, it's really interesting watching that shift in the organisation.
Well, let's have a look at a few of them then, a few of those lovely Down syndrome people through a video called 50 Ordinary Mums, and they're all singing a song, so we'll give that a go. And I just need to get the technical stuff going. Oh my God.
Heart beats fast, colors and drama. for 1,000 more. All along I believed I would find you. Time has brought your heart to me. I loved you for 1,000 years. I love you for 1,000
Okay, we're back. I think I got all that right. So that's good. So Bridie, do you want to tell us, obviously that was a really powerful video, I thought, and great choice of song as well from those mums. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what is Down syndrome? Because we talked about the sport so far and the organizations that support Down syndrome people, but what is actually Down syndrome?
So it's a lifelong condition, and it does cause learning and development delays, and it's related into the chromosomal structure. So usually every cell has 23 pairs of chromosomes. The smallest chromosome pair is number 21. In Down syndrome, those cells have an extra chromosome number 21, so they've got 3 instead of a pair, so it's a triplicate, so it's often called trisomy 21, or the triplication of the chromosome in the 21st pair, or triplicate. So it's in every cell in the body. There is 3 different types of Down syndrome, but trisomy 21 is the most common, where it's the complete triplication of that genetic information. There's also another one called mosaic, another one called translocation, so they're less common. So it's nobody's fault. It's
just one of those things that happen, and they've got an extra chromosome to deal with. I mean, already with all of our chromosomes, which sometimes it's full on in our brain, so good on them. They've got that extra one to obviously control and deal with.
It's just extra. I guess if you're thinking of coding and computer coding, there's, instead of a duplicate, which should be there, then there's triplicates. So there's nothing missing. It's just an extra lot of information, which then, so it was Dr. Langdon Down who originally observed some common traits. So that's what a syndrome is a group of common traits. And he observed these in this group of people, and that's why it's called Down syndrome, because it's named after Dr. Down.
Great. Okay, so now do you want to tell us a little bit about your own experience about finding out about Down syndrome? How did that go, your journey so far?
So our wee girl Sienna was born here in Masterton, and it wasn't till she was about 4 days old that it was raised to us by a paediatrician that there was some question around whether she had Down syndrome or not, which came as quite a surprise to us. Quite a surprise, quite a shock. We had screening, which is a question that we get asked a lot, when perhaps we tell someone we have a child with Down syndrome, they say, did you do the screening? So that's a really loaded whole other conversation to be had around screening. Yes, we did have screening with all 3 of my pregnancies, and that was so that we would have information about our child as opposed to change the course. So we had Sienna, and we had no idea that she had Down syndrome until she was 4 days old when the paediatrician spoke to us, and we agreed to have a test. So they did a blood test, and then they could look at her chromosomes and see that yes, she did have the triplication on her 21st chromosome. And at that stage, she often babies are born with Down syndrome and they can be quite floppy, so they've got really often low muscle tone, and she was quite active and strong, and she was breastfeeding, and often, or sometimes it can occur, babies with Down syndrome have perhaps a smaller mouth and a larger tongue, so they can have trouble latching onto the breast. But I'd already breastfed my 2 other babies, so I was just breastfeeding this baby and didn't know any different, so we persevered, and I'm really pleased that everything happens for a reason, and we already had bonded, connected, had breastfeeding established before we got our diagnosis, which was a really challenging time, and it was really not what we expected. But there is a beautiful quote in one of the New Zealand Down syndrome resources, and it says, "Normality is a paved road. It's comfortable to walk, but no flowers grow on it." And that's really true. So it was a real challenge to be processing the diagnosis in those early days. And then it was my sweet little baby girl who repaired any. She put me all back together again, and her love. And she just, a friend of mine who's a nurse said, "I feel like people with Down syndrome live unfiltered." And for me, Sienna's love is unfiltered. Her joy is unfiltered. It's when she smiles with her entire being, not just her mouth. So she's quite fantastic. And that's something, if you're watching this at all, then the video, or if you're not watching, do look at that video of the song that we just played, and what you can see in that car karaoke situation with the mum doing sign language with their child, is the connection. And that's what struck me when I watched it the first time. The connection and the love between the mothers and their children.
That's a really good point, Bridie, because we're actually on radio at the moment. This will be broadcast on YTV later on this week, I believe. But yes, for those who had listened to the music earlier, it's got some lovely actions to it on the YouTube video. So if you have the opportunity of going on, having a chance to have a look at it on the internet, it's called 50 Mums.
It's Wouldn't Change a Thing website, so it's WCAT, Wouldn't Change a Thing. It's a movement in the UK that
so that's a good one to go and check. Yes, so that was a lovely sharing your story, Bridie, and I second that. Or if I may, that Sienna is a lovely child, full of curiosity. That's how I picture her when I see her. I've had the pleasure of meeting her and seeing her every week, because I do go to the play centre as well. So where she goes with my little one. So now what would you advise any parents going through a similar journey to you, who may be in the Wairarapa or elsewhere in New Zealand?
So I was just going through some of my emails recently, and then I met up with another mum yesterday, and I said to her, I was just reading our email conversation from the early days. So somebody in a support organisation, the Wellington Early Intervention Trust, Lee, the manager there, put me in touch with a beautiful mum here in the Wairarapa, Tina, I'm sure she won't mind me saying, but Lee gave me Tina's email address, and I emailed her and just said, "Hi, I'm new to all of this," and Tina has a son with Down syndrome, and she emailed me back, and I think it's worth repeating, and she said, number 1, everything is going to be okay. Number 2, take one day at a time. Try not to think about the future, which is all good, by the way, double exclamation point. Number 3, take loads of baby photos. And number 4, don't read all the medical info unless it's relevant at the time. And I saw Tina yesterday, and I said, you were right. It's so true. I mean, we're a year and a half later down the journey, and everything is okay. It's better than okay. And I really wouldn't change a thing about my wee girl, Sienna.
That's great. Fantastic.
So reach out to somebody who has walked on that path, and the Down syndrome community is really, really amazing. And in fact, there's a lot of Facebook groups, and closed and open Facebook groups. And as soon as there's a new baby born into our community, they usually post a picture of themselves and their baby. And the messages that come from all the other families around the country is, first of all, congratulations and welcome. There's no I'm sorry, there's none of this. It's just so beautiful, this congratulations, celebrate your baby. Oh, he or she's gorgeous. It's just really, really neat community. So I'm so grateful that I've been able to join this secret club.
That's fantastic. Well, and there are the support systems as well available in the Wairarapa. You mentioned to me when we were talking prior to the show, preparing, that we've got, you reach other associations as well in the Wairarapa.
Yeah.
Support.
Something worth mentioning is that through WINS you can access a child disability allowance, so that's worth knowing very early on. Get onto the application form, get into WINS, and there's a child disability allowance available to you. I have a wonderful neurodevelopment specialist, Jean from the DHB, as the Child Development Services, so she comes to our home and helps me with Sienna's sort of development and making sure we're supporting her gross and fine motor skills and those things. There's a wonderful organisation called the Upside Downs Trust. The Rugby Barrett brothers, their sister Zara has Down syndrome, and they're involved in the trust as well. So they support, we got accepted, and Sienna gets funding for speech therapy. So we use a private speech therapist. While she's not actually forming any words yet, what Polly from the speech teacher, she's amazing as well, she really teaches me how to set up the scaffolding and provide the support, learning some sign language to help Sienna with her communication and eating and food. There's also parent to parent. I mentioned before, there's nothing more powerful than meeting another parent on the similar journey. So there's all the Down syndrome associations and organisations, but parent to parent is a more general organisation for parents supporting other parents of children with a range of disabilities. So it's, there's autism and ADHD and all sorts of non-labelled ones as well.
Yeah, and they meet in Masterton.
Yeah, coffee groups. There's seminars. There's information. It's really fantastic organisation. That's all free as well.
And that's parent to parents, and people can find out on the website. They've got a website as well. Yeah.
So there is lots.
With reference to WINS as well, at the Wairarapa Women's Centre, it's quite useful to know that if you do want to go through an application with WINS and you're not sure how to go about it, we're there to help. So sometimes reach out.
Paperwork can be really overwhelming.
So if you're worried about paperwork, come and see me. I can do paperwork. Well, I'll give it a go. Now, shall we listen to another song? It's called 10 by 12 from Troy Griffiths. Troy is also a dad with a Down syndrome child, and his song's gone viral. I believe he's based in the States.
Yeah, he's US, and he didn't. I don't think he wrote the song, but he did this little YouTube video. He'd never recorded a song before, and he did it and shared it, and the song really resonated with him, from what I read, because he has a child with Down syndrome. Yeah.
Fantastic. Let's put it on. If I can get that going too.
A precious little girl came into the world, a little different from the rest, fighting to survive. Incubated 5 long weeks, her parents prayed, and finally they got the word they could take her home and get on with their life. The day they finally got to hold their bubbly blue-eyed miracle, she smiled and kicked and giggled too, so beautiful. And in her 10 by 12 pretty pink nursery room, they held her close, kissed her toes, made those faces parents do, as her angels flew. Her mom of class. Determined but has trouble learning, she needs special care. Kids laughed at her in arts and crafts, 'cause she drew a short giraffe. They said, go away, no you can't play with us, and they pulled her hair. She came home with a face so long, I said, baby, is something wrong? She just said, no, I'm okay. So brave and strong. But in her 10 by 12 little pink bedroom, her silent tears start to fall. She hides in her shell, where she's safe and sound. All the broken down, she knows she's gonna make it through. Now she meets her hardest challenge as if she hasn't faced enough. She needs an operation, 'cause the chemo may be rough. But she's not one to complain at all. She may be little, but she stands tall. And in her 10 by 12 hospital room, we say a prayer, stroke her hair, worry like parents do. As her angels we both weep. She's gotta make it through. She's gonna make it through. A precious little girl, too soon to leave this world.
Okay, so that again a lovely song. We're discovering some beautiful songs this morning. Thank you, Bridie, for that. Just gonna stop the laptop. Thank you. So yes, just talking about celebration. I know that in March there was a Down Syndrome Awareness Day. So do you want to tell us a bit more about that? And
So World Down Syndrome Day is on the 21st of March every year. And it took me a wee while to figure out the connection, but because the triplication of the chromosomes is on the 21st chromosome, hence 321 is so World Down Syndrome Day. If you never forget it, it's the 21st of March.
That's right.
It wasn't until I saw it written down I went, oh, that's why. So yes, that was in March this year and every year, and this year was the celebration of the NZDSA's 40th birthday. So I took cake, everyone loves cake, to the Supported Learning Centre at Waikol, which is the part of the Wairarapa College where there is extra support and teacher aids for children with varying disabilities, including quite a few kids with Down syndrome are in the Supported Learning Centre at Waikol, and we had cake and celebrated World Down Syndrome Day, and the WDSA put on a disco in Wellington, and I see this quite common in the children I've got to know with Down syndrome and young adults, is that they really have a passion for music and rhythm, and already Sienna loves pushing the musical toys, and she dances and she claps her hands already. So these like I said, unfiltered. So some of these children that I've seen with Down syndrome, when they dance, it's free, it's unfiltered, and it's really beautiful. And these kids rocked it at the disco at World Down Syndrome Day.
There was there also awards given? I thought I read something.
We have the Francis Clark Memorial Awards that we run every year at Government House through Wellington Down Syndrome Association. Frances Clark was a little girl born in the 80s with Down syndrome, and she died at age 4 or 5 from leukemia. And her parents then have set up this Frances Clark Memorial. So we hold these awards every year at Government House. That's not associated with World Down Syndrome Day, because, there's also World Down Syndrome Awareness Month that happens in October as well. Yeah.
Okay. And what do you think the general public need more awareness of then today?
It's quite simple. Attitude. Positive. Accepting, so that people with Down syndrome feel valued and included. And it's really as simple as that. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well,
when it comes to speaking about people with Down syndrome, or just to see the person first. So I have a daughter, Sienna, and she has Down syndrome. She's not a Down's child. She's a person first. So if ever you come across a person with any disability, even, people that use wheelchairs, they're not a wheelchair user, they're a person who uses a wheelchair. So it's just the person first, just as you would want to be seen as Jolene, not just mother of children. We're a person first, so it's just acknowledging that. Yeah,
brilliant, fantastic. So I want to talk a little bit about adults as well, adult life, and again, for those who are listening today, you won't be able to see it, but I'm going to put another piece of music from Sting, the Hiring Chain. It's quite visual as well, but, the songs, listen to the words, because it will kind of introduce our next part, which will be about adulthood with Down syndrome. Okay, so back on the laptop.
The baker had Simone, and everybody saw that she could do the job. The lawyer went to the baker and saw Simone at work. The lawyer hired John because the baker hired Simone. The baker hired Simone. The dentist went to the lawyer and saw John at work. The dentist hired Sophia because the lawyer hired John, because the baker had Simone. The baker had Simone. The farmer went to the dentist and saw Sophia at work. The farmer hired Kate because the dentist had Sophia, because the lawyer had John, because the baker had Simone. The baker had Simone. The barber went to the farmer and saw Kate at work. The barber had Paul because the farmer had Kate, because the dentist had Sophia, because the lawyer had John, because the baker had Simone. The baker had Simone. The baker went to the barber and saw Paul at work. He didn't have a clue, but it was thanks to his first move that the barber had Paul, because the farmer had Kate, because the dentist had Sophia, because the lawyer had John, because the baker had Simone. The baker had Simone. The baker had Simone.
Right, we're back. Great song. We were dancing in the studio. So that was Sting and the Hiring Chain, and this song was actually written for the Down Syndrome Awareness Day. Is that
World
right?
Down Syndrome Day 2021, which was a cool number too, because it was 21.3.21.
Oh, fantastic.
So it's like the best World Down Syndrome Day ever.
Yeah, so when it comes to adult life, we've had a recent movie done in, it's a New Zealand Kiwi movie called Poppy, which is currently on at the Screen Room in Masterton. So if you haven't seen it yet, I would highly recommend it. I actually went to see it at the weekend. So I believe, Bridie, you went to see it. And would you say the movie is a good representation of life with Down syndrome and adulthood? childhood life?
Yeah, well, like all of us, we're all very different. And I think that's something to bear in mind with people with Down syndrome. They're as unique as typical children or people are. So some people with Down syndrome will become movie stars like Libby Hunsdale and the character Poppy, and they have dreams and aspirations. And then there's other people with higher needs, but everybody's really just after that inclusion and feeling valued. But with the right supports, the right opportunities, people with Down syndrome can go on to have relationships. I know of a lovely couple in Palmerston North, young adults, both with Down syndrome, who in the last few years just got married to each other, and they live together, and so they still can have a lot of what everybody desires is connection, contribution, to feel valued. Employment is a real big thing, which is what that hiring chain video was all about. And if we can change, we don't all realise the power of what our actions can have, so perhaps with Libby starring in the Poppy movie might start a chain of, it was only in the movie she was a mechanic, but perhaps someone might hire someone with Down syndrome, and then somebody else will see that, and we can start our own hiring chain. But it's really that acceptance, inclusion, and having people feel valued.
It's also inspiring, so for parents who worry that maybe their child is not going to manage to have a job, it's, if there are anybody like that out there listening, if you think that way, don't think that way, because it's really not like that. It's, everybody has a chance on this planet, and it's really inspiring movie.
Oh, it was such a beautiful movie. It was really fantastic. So it's so cool to see people like Libby really smashing glass ceilings, which is cool. Another person who's done that recently is Michael Holdsworth. So he's a person with Down syndrome, and he's played the piano at the Francis Clark Memorial Awards that I spoke about at Government House. He's played the piano there every year, I think, for the last 30 years. And he just recently was awarded a New Zealand Order of Merit at the Queen's Birthday Honours, and I believe that's the first person with Down syndrome who's been awarded that amazing honour. And I believe Libby was the first person to star in a movie that has Down syndrome. So there's some really cool things happening.
Yeah.
Another couple of movies worth, if you're looking for some cool entertainment, The Peanut Butter Falcon, weird name, American movie about a person with Down syndrome, a young man who's got a wrestling dream and goal, and it's about his adventures, and he's just so lovable. It's beautiful. And another one, an Australian film, Ride Like a Girl, about the story of, I think it's Michelle, the first female to win the Melbourne Cup. And in real life, Michelle's brother, Stevie, has Down syndrome, and Stevie plays himself in the movie, and it's just fantastic. It's really beautiful. So yeah.
Brilliant, fantastic. So very inspiring, lots of hope for children, teenagers, adults with Down syndrome out there. Now it's probably time for us to end the show. It's been lovely having you, Bridie, here today, and just to remind the audience, if you would like to have any of these resources, to go and have a look online. We talked about the Play Centre, which is a great place, again, for inclusion in the early years. We talked about the National New Zealand Down Syndrome Association and the Wellington Down Syndrome Association. But even if you go to the NZDSA, is that right? NZDSA, you will find the different regions as well on there. They've got a section where you can have a look at the different places where you can get support in New Zealand. The Parent-to-Parent organisation is another great place for support. And then you've got a number of places for, therapy and things like that. So I can't really remember them.
I forgot to mention Riding for the Disabled, which Siena's a bit young for at the moment, but they're a fantastic organisation. They're nationwide, but there is a Wairarapa group for Riding for the Disabled, which is really cool.
Yeah. Anyway, if you want to have more information, reach out on NZDSA. I'll try and do this quicker. Or you can just give me a call as well at the Wairarapa Women's Centre, and obviously I can pinpoint you in the right direction. Our number is 06378 2453. So special thanks to Bridie today for coming to talk to us and sharing her own personal story. Don't hesitate to, as I say, come and help and get some help and support. It's been really fantastic having you today. We are here on the show on a monthly basis, so if you know of an organisation that you think should be represented on this show, again, give me a call or send me a message via Facebook or on the Wairarapa Women at extra.co.nz email. And then I'll be grateful to hear from you. So have a lovely month, everyone, and thank you for listening. Aroha to you all. Thank you.